So we'll see how this goes. It might go terribly, I don't know. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. And I don't really like to go on about education, and some people might not even know that I have 2 art degrees, believe it or not.
I don't believe you.
I have an undergraduate degree in fine art, and I have my master's degree, so my postgraduate degree in fine art as well.
I think you should return it.
And throughout college and uni and all of that kind of stuff, learning different kinds of practices and different things to do, one thing I always struggled with was drawing. Physically, I don't seem to be very good at drawing. I think sometimes some people can just naturally pick up a pencil and just doodle-doo, and they've got a fantastic drawing. I'm not one of those people. I have to really try to draw something nice. And anyway, today I thought I would share a little bit of my education and what I learned, or what I was supposed to be taught at college and uni and stuff. And I thought we would try and do a few little life drawing techniques / experiments on how to kind of learn a little bit more about form and drawing. And this is coming from me, who didn't absorb any of this information at all. So I'm not going to be a fantastic teacher, but I'll try my best. Everyone get your pencils and your paper out. The teacher ant is going to try and teach you something and fail miserably. Silence! Samantha, spit that chewing out. I've told you once before. I'm joking, if I was a teacher, I'd be like a proper cool teacher.
Not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom.
Like you'd be able to chew gum and drink wine, I wouldn't care.
Happy hour is from 4 to 6!
Anyway, if you are wanting to do some still life drawing, which is different from life drawing. Life drawing is where you have a naked person and you draw the naked person.
I want you to draw me like one of your French girls.
Which we're not doing today, by the way, because I don't want to be in the presence of someone else naked in my studio because I just don't fancy it. And secondly, I would have to blur so much out when it came to the editing. I might do it one time though. It might be nice. Shall we see some tits? Ooh, my nipple's out. But still life drawing is where you get a collection of objects, or it can be a singular object. I'm sure we've seen it before where people paint the fruit and draw the fruit.
Oh my god, she's amazing.
It's basically that, but you can draw absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be some fruit. You can just gather whatever objects you have around your house, place them into some sort of formation, and then just start that way. So over at the side of the studio, I have really jankily set up this little assortment of objects, including a fake plant, a wooden star, and a little teapot thing with some bees on it. And stuff like this, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be like super janky. I feel like sometimes people feel they need to be like super professional and everything needs to be polished and excellent. You don't need that, especially if you're just starting and you're practicing. Just throw a few things down. I do think it helps if you've got like a bed sheet, like a white bed sheet or something, or just a plain blank wall, just to block out anything around it, just so you can actually see the objects a lot clearer and it's not muddled by anything else. So I'm going to attempt to draw this in various different ways, and the first one I'm going to be doing is continuous line. So this is a technique where it's basically focusing on shape and the shape of objects and nothing else. So you don't need to worry about shading or kind of the light or anything like that. It's literally just about the physical lines that go kind of around an object. And also, because it's a continuous line, you are not allowed to let your pencil, your pen, whatever it is, leave the paper. It has to stay on the paper. Strange process. Don't ask me why it's important, because I have no idea. But this is what I was taught in college and university, alright? I forgot just how bad of a drawer I am. Where shall I even start? I'm thinking, looking at the objects, I probably want to start with the table top and then go around the plant. I think that's how I'll try and do it. Oh, off we go. We've started. And remember, this is all just about focusing on the lines and nothing else. So it doesn't have to be super perfect. Continuous line. Keep your pencil or your pen on the paper and just focus on the objects. Nothing else. And what you'll find with something like this and this little exercise is it's important not to actually even look at the paper that much. You want to just take a little glance now and again, just so you know where you are, but mainly you want to be focused on the actual object. And this is the thing, it doesn't matter if the lines kind of overlap or anything like that, or it looks a bit weird. You just want to kind of continue. It's surprisingly challenging, you have no idea, if you're just focusing on the lines, to try and trick your brain to actually just see what you can see, rather than embellishing and making it up. I had to take my hand off because my hand's cramping, I'm sorry.
He's a cheater.
I can't see this stem. This stem doesn't go any further. It's just plant here. And you can go back on yourself too. I'm not gonna lie, I got very lost off with that bit, but that's okay. At this point, I am wondering why I chose a monstera plant of all objects, which are rather difficult to draw. Also, I remember at college, when we used to do this, it was timed, so we would only have like a minute to do it, so you would really have to rush and get your lines down, but I thought we would take our time today. You know what, my hand is so crampy it's unreal. My pencil hasn't left the paper though, I swear it hasn't left it. Okay, I think I'm done for that one. That was really hard, and I forgot how much I had to concentrate on stuff like this. I'm sweating. The thing is, I put a bit too much pressure on myself. I forgot these are supposed to be just fun little exercises. I'm taking it too seriously. So this is the arrangement of objects I was attempting to draw with just lines, a continuous line drawn. And this is my drawing. Obviously, it's very off scale. I'm not sure what happened here. The plant was incredibly difficult to draw, but I think it's looking alright. I think it's just a nice little study, and something like that, obviously it's a jumping off point and you could go back into and do stuff, but you get what the objects are just from a continuous line. I just think it's a very interesting thing, and the more you do something like this, the more you're going to pick up shapes, and the more you're going to be able to study different ways lines move and kind of how they go in the forefront and the background and all of that kind of other stuff. I'm just a little bit rusty, I'm not gonna lie. I actually enjoyed that. I'm really, really hot. I think I'm gonna have to put a fan on. Okay, children, it's time for class 2. Yeah, I'm taking my ring off because it's getting in the way. Now this lesson is all about shading, and I hate shading because I'm really bad at it, and this was one that I used to always really struggle with, so this is going to be a mess. But basically, looking at the objects, you have to ignore basically everything you see. So you are just focusing on the light and dark elements. All you need to be focused on, drawing this part, is shapes, is basically putting the dark down, and then we're going to go in with a rubber and go for some light areas. It's nothing to do with line. You do not draw a single line. It is all about kind of flat shading. So I'm going to be using charcoal for this, and it used to just really, I don't know, I used to just really struggle with this part, because for me, I can't see the shading really. I can just see the object. I find it hard to turn my brain and make it see something that it doesn't want to see. I don't know, I end up just making it up. That's what you're not supposed to do. I used to get in trouble for it. Okay, I think we'll start off with the cloth, because I can see the shading more on the cloth. And obviously, if we're looking at the wooden star, the star's dark, as is the plant pot, but then the teapot's light with dark elements. Just really study it and focus. Well, I can already tell where the star is. It's about here. There's some shading along this bit, and then that goes all the way there, and then it gets incredibly dark here where that teapot is, and then this is just all like that, and then it gets very light towards the end, which we'll correct later. I know it doesn't look like anything. You're probably looking at this and thinking, what are you doing, Ant? It literally looks like nothing, but you're just blocking down all of this kind of shape and this shading and working that way. So all of this bit is just kind of the same. And then we're going to have this teapot, and it's got a very dark base bit around the bottom. One thing that art tutor used to tell us as well, especially at college, is don't be too precious with your artwork. You want to really just kind of go in and just do it. She had very much the motto of think later, do now and think later. So, if we look at that, it looks like absolutely nothing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But weirdly enough, I can kind of see what I'm doing. In fact, I want to get my rubber first, because I know for a fact this table does not extend that far out. And I just want to bring that all the way down. So now that I've basically chucked down what I feel like I can kind of see, I just need to go back in and add more shading and stuff and kind of get rid of bits that I don't want. So I'm just going to start by like blending all this out. I just find it makes it easier for me to see what I'm doing. And this was the star. The star's very difficult. I feel like I've made a proper ass of that. Can't even tell what it is anymore. Something like this, it's fixable, believe it or not. And now if we're looking, I can already see that at the front there are some incredibly dark parts. But then it's lighter along here. So although we do have some darker parts, they're not as dark. And then along the ridge here, it's very light. It's also a little bit light around here. We're just gonna get our eraser and just cut into that darkness. But also, it doesn't really go as light around here. Just add a bit more dark into there. And then across these dark bits that come down, there's a very sharp bit of light that needs to carve right in there, especially on this side. You know what, I feel like I'm getting very lost off with this. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
What is that?
This is why I struggle with this one. It's really, really difficult. And I've also chosen some really difficult objects. I like doing the fabric. It's these object parts I can't seem to get right because I can't tell what's light and what's dark. And now I feel like I'm making it up, and that's dangerous because that's not what you're supposed to do. But also, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I think I'm going to give up with that one. I don't think I'm very good at this one.
You think?
So if we look at the objects I was trying to draw, and then this is what I've come up with.
Oh dear.
You know what? It doesn't look too bad. It's got like a lot of expression and it's very kind of arty and dramatic. It just isn't figurative. It's not figurative at all. You wouldn't be able to tell really what those objects are. But I do like around here, I'm kind of capturing some of the light and the dark parts. And again, doing something like this, if you do it time and time again, you're going to get way better. I haven't done this in years. I will preface that by saying I haven't done something like this in absolutely years. So I'm really, really rusty. Class is back in session. Jerry, stop picking your nose, you scruffy little bastard. And for this one, I thought we would do an anti-original idea.
Ooh.
I know, surprising, exciting. And I wanted to do more of a mixed media piece, but with some colour, of course. And I'm going to use these brush-out crystals. I haven't used them since I tried them last time, and they're absolutely amazing. And I thought we would try and do like a very textured coloured, maybe possibly more of like an illustrative one. So we'll see how this goes. It might go terribly, I don't know. But that's the fun thing about drawing, and it's also the fun thing about art and painting and stuff, is experimenting.
He's a bisexual.
It's just pissing around and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. Not everything has to be amazing.
Thank God.
It's fantastic that I'm doing a colourful one and everything's very white. So that's a bit of a challenge, isn't it? What I might do is change the white to yellow. I know, be a bit controversial.
I mean,
Oops. Also, if you haven't seen these little powders, I'll leave a video up there somewhere, but they're absolutely amazing. I know they don't look like anything yet, but it will in a bit, trust us. So I'm gonna kind of bring some down. A bit of brown for the star. You know what, I'm gonna do the little teapot in turquoise because I'm feeling frisky. And I'm also gonna do the plant pot in red. As you can see with this one, it's not obviously accurate. It's not accurate at all. And we'll have a bit of leaf green. That's leaf green, is it? It's very yellow. Are you sure that's... Oops, I've put too much on there. That's supposed to be green. Can't see that going green, but we'll see what happens. I'm using my image as like a jumping off point, but for this I'm definitely stylizing, which my tutor used to hate, and if she was dead, and I don't know whether she is dead because we didn't keep in touch, she'd be rolling around in her grave. I remember there was this one kid in my class and she was really, really talented. She was very good at just drawing and painting. It was very figurative but very stylized, and my tutor used to go so hard on her because her paintings were just so ridiculously stylized, almost like cartoony, but they looked so good, but she used to get slagged off and I felt so bad for her.
that's all.
And then we're going to add some water and see this come alive, hopefully. Now Now this might look a bit crazy, and I would 100% agree, but we're just gonna get some paper towel and just get rid of some of the excess of this. And I think doing a technique like this, it really kind of pushes you out of that perfection role and out of that perfection headspace. Because yeah, this doesn't look like a pot of plants or a little teapot or a star or anything like that, but it just goes to show that you can experiment with different kinds of textures and forms and make just some art, just for art's sake, you know? Tear it apart! So I've got this here, I've got just like a random kind of blob of colour, and then I've just got a Sharpie, and I'm just thinking, what if we just add some just rough details to kind of outline this a bit. You know what, that Sharpie's not going to work. I'll go for a biro instead. The biro and the pen isn't going to work, so we will use an Inktense stick. So we've obviously got our little still life set up, and then we've managed to create a much more kind of abstract, expressive, kind of colourful piece of artwork from it. And you can still see that this is inspired by the original still life setup. It's just completely transformed, it's completely different. Doing this technique is something I much prefer. I find it way more creative and way more freeing. I find when you're trying to draw something very accurately and you're trying to set yourself rules and things need to be in a certain place and stuff, it almost prohibits me from doing that, if that makes sense.
No.
But when it comes to creativity and just doing shit like this is where I feel like I get excited and I enjoy it. So I think it doesn't really matter what your kind of skill is when it comes to art and drawing and painting and doing kind of still life stuff. You could go from more of a kind of illustrative, kind of plain, figurative line drawing to something a little bit more moody and a bit more expressive and potentially a bit more realistic. This isn't realistic, but you know what I mean. Or you could get carried away and do something like this. And there's nothing stopping you from chucking bleach on this, adding sand, ripping it in half, ripping the entire thing into pieces, sticking it all back down again, and then drawing back into it. You can do whatever the hell you want. And all three of these have just come from a simple still life setup. So I think today's art session has adjourned. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And I've actually found it quite fun to get back into doing kind of more arty stuff. Especially doing it this way. It really reminds us of like my college and uni days of just kind of pissing around. I remember there was one time in one of my lessons where we had to, so did you see this piece of paper? I had a lesson one time at university. I had to paint this piece of paper. Not on it. I had to literally look at this piece of paper and paint the colours within the paper. And it was a white piece of paper. I had to paint all the colours, and my tutor
Was an absolute arsehole.
honestly, I felt like I was being gaslit, but they were telling us, make sure to focus on the reds, the greens, the blues, the purples. So it's a white bit of paper. What greens and blues and reds are you talking about? It's a white bit of paper. So that's the kind of bullshit I had to put up with in college and uni and stuff. And sometimes I think what puts people off art is the whole kind of hoity-toity pretentiousness of it all.
Oh la la.
And it doesn't need to be that way, it really doesn't. But anyway, I'll see you next week for a brand new video. And feel free to let me know in the comments if you want me to basically share my fantastic skills that I've learned at uni or college or whatever, in the degrees that I've got that I spent a lot of money on and I don't use anymore. I wouldn't mind doing life drawing now that I think about it. I just need to find a naked person. Just drag someone off the street and actually stop that thought and that process. That's gonna go somewhere where it shouldn't. We don't drag people off the street, strip them of their clothes and draw them in our studio, okay? That's not appropriate and it's not professional and you would probably get arrested.